I have with me a very interesting young man, and he's none other. No, tonight, before the show started, he sent me a message on Facebook. He said, "Are you going to throw me to the wolves?" I said, "Man, I'm going to throw you to the sharks." How you doing?
Good night, good night.
Is everything all right?
I'm good, Mr. Gibbes.
It's good to have you here, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you for having me. I would like to say good night to all your televiewers and to the entire population of Saint Martin and Saint Martin. It's a pleasure being on your show. I know we were supposed to connect earlier a few months ago.
Right.
But I felt, it would be better, to postpone that until a day when I really had something to talk about and come in and discuss about the country.
So at least you're here now, and
I'm here. I'm very proud that you chose to lead off with that great video of your daughter. It really makes me proud to know that we do have, it's evidence that we do have a lot of St. Martin young people that are doing great things. And you actually mentioned 3 master's degree. So I think that's an incredible achievement, and I'm very pleased to know that she chose to come back home. And I look forward to actually meeting her in person.
okay, thank you very much for those kind words.
So congratulations to you and your wife.
Thank you. And you come from a very, very big family, Peterson, and you also is the grandson of Mr. Swazi.
Yes, that's correct.
Felix
Swazi.
Who was a remarkable St. Martin.
Yeah, I was actually raised with him. So I spent a lot of years with my grandparents. I'm the son of Aline Swazi and Hans Peterson, which many people know from as one of the great guitarists on the island.
The Rolling Stones.
Rolling Tones.
But that changed the name, was Rolling Stones.
That's correct, Rolling Tones.
Right.
Tones. So.
You play any instrument?
I don't play any instrument. It's one of those things. I get that question my whole life, and I told my dad, why never, play any instrument. But I think that was kind of done by design.
Yeah.
Because my dad saw what his experience was in the music world. And when you learn to play an instrument, sometimes it can go a good direction, but it can also go a bad direction. So I think my father mostly focused on making sure we got an education, and we took a different road.
So you went abroad to study too, right? After.
Yes, I went to Melbourne, Florida, to what was at the time Florida Institute of Technology, but then went over to be called Florida Tech.
Oh, okay.
I did mechanical engineering there.
So how come you didn't work at GB? You didn't come back to St. Martin?
Well, when I came back in '95, it was right after Louis.
Oh, okay.
And the job market was not so friendly at the time.
For St. Martin?
For St. Martin, I mean, it's still not to a certain extent today.
Right.
And I didn't really waste no time trying to become frustrated, and I decided to go and try in Aruba. I had interned a couple summers with a company over in Aruba in San Nicolas, so I contacted them and I decided to go to Aruba, and they actually subcontracted me into Coastal at the time, which was the one in charge of the refinery back then.
So then what happened in Aruba? You left Aruba and then came to St. Martin afterwards?
Well, in Aruba, I went from working in the refinery to working in the hotel industry.
In Aruba?
Actually. Yeah, in Aruba. So that's where I discovered my passion for tourism and for actually dealing with people, and it was an amazing experience.
So from being an engineer, you go to the hospitality industry?
Complete shift. So, I think my dad was a little nervous at the time. He was like, I spent all this money for you to become an engineer, and here you are now in Aruba. I actually started off as a front desk clerk. Because when I left from the refinery, which I had to pretty much do because of medical reasons, I just needed a job. I had just rented a studio, moved out from by my aunt. So I decided, I needed a job I didn't matter to me what it was. I needed to pay my rent. Yeah, I just wanted to work. So when I interviewed, they told me at the hotel that, they didn't have any position for me in my field. And I was like, whatever you have, just let me know. So I started as a front desk clerk. And it was nice, I got a uniform. I got some training, and then I started to deal with guests. And about 6 months down the line, I was promoted to sales manager.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what you did after that?
Well, I continued there for about 7 years. I was sales manager of the year many times at the hotel. Like I said, it really became my passion. So I put all my time into that industry and spending time at the hotel. So I traveled a lot also for the hotel. And in 2001, early 2001, my stepfather passed away. In St. Martin. So that's when I got a call from my mom, hey, you need to consider coming home. So that's when I decided to give up what was at the time a very good career in Aruba, a very promising career, because funny enough, I was received very well in Aruba. They were
better than your own home.
Better than my own. They were a little put off in the beginning because I wasn't speaking Papiamento, but as soon as I started to speak Papiamento, which I always knew, but I never, would practice, I started to skyrocket in the company and in all aspects of the word. So when I decided to give up to come back to St. Martin, for family reasons, so that's the reason I came back in 2001.
But so now you're back in St. Martin in 2001. What did you do?
Well, actually, on my way to Aruba, when I was flying back, I met Michelle Hodge. Michelle Hodge, who at the time was the development agent of Subway, the franchise. And, after discussing with him and talking about the franchise and discussing business and the fact that I would be coming back home, Michelle basically ended up offering me a job. So I came back to work with him as the field consultant. So my job would then entail traveling to all of the different islands within his territory to control the stores and make sure they follow the standards. And also part of the agreement was that I would get to open my own store in St. Martin, which at the time had, I believe, 2 other stores at the time. Yeah.
So did you get a chance to do that?
I did get the chance. It took about a year to get it rolling because I faced all the challenges that we always hear people talk about, put in for the business license. It took very long. It took very long. I actually had the place rented in Maho, which at the time they were planning to do a sales office. But I was fortunate. I met with a gentleman at the time that I didn't know, which was Mr. Walter Kieser. And he actually agreed, he pushed for me to get the location, which if people remember was right at the corner there in Maho, close to the escalator. And I got the location, and I actually had it rented for about 7 months, almost 8 months. And I was fortunate that, by the time he was very understanding, and he waived some of the months of rent, but I actually had to pay for rent while I was waiting on my license. So
you still have the franchise?
I don't have the franchise. Unfortunately, I had to give up after many years of subsidizing it with my other business, which I went into construction later on. It became evident that Maho changed a lot, because I'll give an example. When the boardwalk came online, you remember back in those days, New Year's, the big event was in Maho.
Yeah.
All of the activity, if you wanted to really go on a Sunday night or a Saturday night or any night to go and have an ice cream, people would go down there and walk around. So that was very good for business. But when the boardwalk came online, it kind of immediately split that crowd in half. Further to that, we had many changes in the hotel, to the point in the end where the hotel became all-inclusive. So that pretty much meant that I was renting from them, but they weren't all-inclusive, so they shut me out. On top of that, the employees, which were really my core business that would come every day, they tell them they have to eat in the cafeteria. So basically my two sources of business were just evaporated. So I went to a certain point where I had about 60% less sales compared to the previous years. Yeah, you know, and then you remember we also had a crisis with the gasoline,
Right.
which made prices go up, and we also had the housing crisis, which affected travel in general to the island.
And that was back in 2008.
That's correct.
So what happened now in terms of your other venture, construction?
Well, I've been in construction now for almost 10 years with a partner. We actually went to high school together. We ended up in college even together. And I was actually 1 year ahead of him in college.
Oh, okay.
So I came back to St. Martin a little before him. And when he came home, by that time I had already opened the Subway. And when he came home, I said, hey, it's a different reality than we expected when we were in college. But I learned the hard way already. So, let's get together and do something. And we started a construction company.
So now you're into something else now. You're going to become a politician.
Well, that seems to be the word. That seems the word everybody is using already. I'm a very humble person, so it's kind of it makes me feel strange because how do you become a politician overnight? I think that's something you earn. Right? But I was called that a lot because I'm one of those people that I've always lived the problems on the island. So wherever I go, I discuss the issues that are going on the island. So
now you're going to be running with the St. Martin Christian Party?
That's correct. That's correct.
Was it difficult to make a decision to run?
Well, it was not a very difficult decision once I made up my mind that I was going to run, that I would run with them. But it was a difficult decision to decide to run because I'm one of those that I've always felt that you can only declare once. Mm-hmm. There's only one first time. So like I say, you can only fire that bullet once. So I always felt that it was very important to be able to do it the right way. And I must say that, after I was approached by Peter J. Gittens and Pastor Smith, and after we met a couple times, I have not regretted joining them. They're a very good team. I feel at ease in that team. And we get an opportunity to interact, and it's a real team. Let's put it that way.
Next week, Monday, is the big day, right?
That's Postulation Day.
Yeah.
That's correct.
What did your mother and your father have to say to you about it?
Well, my mother being a person that was involved in politics on the French side,
right.
And growing up in a political family, I think my mother, she kind of expected it. So my mother was really excited. My father, on the other hand, is a more reserved person,
right.
And we actually had a 4-hour conversation where we went through everything, and he wanted to make sure that I was ready for what I was going to do. So his exact words were, you have to be ready to walk that line now. So
you're ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Right. Ready. Well, it's good to see people
I'm energized, as I say.
Well, it's good to see people like you involved, because politicians get a bad rap these days. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I can see the reason why. Sometimes I can see the reason why people maybe exaggerate. But at the same time, like insurance, you need insurance. Like politicians, you need politicians. And I think that we need to get people that we can trust, people who really care about us as a country and the people. And I think there's where a lot of old people feel disappointed because they feel like politicians are all for themselves. What's the feedback you're getting from people?
Well, I'll be honest, OJ. While it was not a surprise, while I expected the response in the community, but what's amazing to me is that St. Martin people have become very frustrated and very pessimistic about the ability of politicians to actually have integrity and to actually be able to do what they say they're going to do. I think they're very used to all the promises, And then if we look since 10-10-10, you know, we're not even going to go back before that, but since 10-10-10, when we went over to this new system of government, we have had five governments in 5 years. And it seems as if every 3 months, you're holding your breath because you don't know what's going to be the next thing. Who's going to jump next? Is the government going to fall? You know, so people have become, I think, extra pessimistic about the future of the island. Jumping ship has become a word now in the community that everybody uses. Integrity is a word that everybody uses now, and corruption and nepotism are words that now are common, you know, in our vocabulary.
Yeah.
Now, and some of the canvassing that I went out and did, it's amazing how everybody says, you know, we don't want to vote anymore. We don't believe that politicians can change. We don't believe that politicians can deliver when they get in there. And I think that's going to be the challenge for every new party and every. Well, I'm not promising a magic bullet. What I can promise is my integrity, my honesty, and I can promise to do it a different way than they have been doing it. Because what I've seen so far, OJ, is many times you see people, for instance, jump ship, while we know that there's a lot behind the scenes that we may not know. You really need to take into consideration what you do in front of the public. To just jump ship without a valid reason, you know, to leave your party that you started off, your campaign a few months, a year before, everything was honky-dory, as they say, and then from one day to the next, you're gone completely everything that you said. I don't think people can buy that, you know. I think people are expecting to see politicians lead by example. You know, it's no longer acceptable that, you know, already they're considering that, you know, you make such a huge salary, so why are you acting this way? You know, why are you failing to demonstrate that you do have integrity? Why is it always grandstanding and fighting on the floor of Parliament?
How you feel about, you know, you said earlier that you studied mechanical engineering in the U.S.
Yes.
And you came back to St. Martin, and it was difficult. You had to go to Aruba.
Yes.
And you said also that it's still happening today.
It is still happening.
That is true. I see a lot of young people coming back. And I'm going to say this, although I didn't want to say this. My daughter had an interview with two people at the island government of St. Martin.
Okay.
And a Dutch gentleman turned to my daughter and asked her in the interview if she was aware that the laws in St. Martin are written in Dutch. You heard my daughter speaking a while ago in Dutch.
Of course.
Her degrees are all in Dutch.
Of course.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Can you imagine that? She even got more degrees than him.
Yeah.
And he's asking her if she's aware that the laws are written in Dutch in St. Martin. Yeah. Where the hell do you think she's studying?
Yeah, exactly.
You see what we have to go through? We always have to prove ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. Now, the question I would ask, though, OJ, is, Mr. Gibbes, is what was he doing in that interview? Because here it is.
Well, the government of St. Martin brought him here to work.
But this is a person of the soil that clearly went away and that achieved, came back with all of these master's degree. I think it's very important that we try to grab her and make sure that she can contribute to the country.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Mr. Peterson. I was very angry. In fact, I called the Prime Minister. I said, this is ridiculous. You can't have someone asking her. And the Prime Minister was very courteous and polite in trying to explain it. But I think these are the things that are hurting St. Martin. These are the reasons why sometimes people say all kinds of things about us.
I agree.
And we don't believe in ourselves. We don't believe in our own people. And I look at you as a young man, and when I heard what you said about studying mechanical engineering and coming back to St. Martin and can't find work, and seeing it happen over and over and over again, I got to ask you now that you're entering the political arena, how you feel about that? What do you think makes it so difficult for educated St. Martiners to be given a fair shot in their own country?
Well, I think, Mr. Gibbes, we are in a transition period we are transitioning between the generation that I refer to as the mullet bay generation,
Right.
where St. Martin had a certain prosperity back then that you didn't really have to go away and get a master's degree and get all those degrees. You could achieve.
Right.
You would hear back then many young people, you know, I hear it still from my parents' generation. Many times they say, you know, by the time I was 25, I had 2 houses. So they didn't have the need to go away to study. Now, over the years, since 95, there's a whole batch of young people now that are coming online that actually went away and to study. But in the meantime, there's also a lot of people now that are threatened by these young people, you know, because you're coming back with a new vision. You're coming back with new ideas, with a new perspective on the world. And in many instances, like maybe the case of that Dutch gentleman, he's here in the Caribbean. He probably has a nice house rented with a pool, and she is potentially a threat to him having that job in St. Martin. So it's kind of like you put in the wrong people to make the decisions involving your own educated people. So he's not going to want to push her to take his position. And I think that happens throughout the world, but it happens a lot in St. Martin because there's no one that stands up. I mean, we hear it in Parliament all the time. Everybody says, you know, the locals have to come back. They have to come and help their country. But when you get back, you face these type of issues. And as somebody just coming back from school, the last thing you want is to become a political football.
Exactly.
You don't want your name to be spoken out there. You just want the opportunity to start off and to prove what you can do, you know. But many times you find all of these obstacles. I chose that I never wanted to work in the civil service, let's put it that way, for government. I always wanted to own my own business, and I managed to achieve that. But I've been back here now almost 16 years, and I've only swam against the current. You know, it's been one challenge after the next, from trying to get more finances to be able to open the business, all the way to surviving in the process as a local business person. And in the construction sector, that's another sector that's a lot of the reason that prompted me to get involved, because I saw a complete other side of St. Martin being part of the construction sector.
You know, you're going to be running on the St. Martin Christian Party, right?
That's correct.
And you know what number you're going to have?
No, I don't know what number. Not that I wouldn't tell you, but I don't know the number. That's the honest answer.
You don't care what the number is?
I don't care about the number either.
That's a good attitude.
That is irrelevant to me.
Because I got some people, you know, they want to be number 4, number 5. They can't get higher than 5. They don't want to be there. You don't have that problem.
Well, this is part of a journey for me, Mr. Gibbes. So being elected, obviously, when you go in an election, you know, you want to win, but it's part of a journey for me. You know, this is taking a next step to trying to help my country and help solve some of the issues that are plaguing us. And if I'm not elected, I will continue to do that.
What's your message to young people?
My message to young people is don't give up. Those that are out there studying, my message to them is try to get as much work experience before you come back home. Don't come back home and only plan to work for government. Have a backup plan, because in many instances they will face what your daughter faced. And I would love also to set up a network of mentors like myself, which can actually, you know, receive those young people and guide them. Because I think if I had somebody to have that conversation with me, maybe I would have never ended up in Aruba. Not that I regret, because it was a great part of my life, but it's good to have someone to explain to them what they're going to experience, so that when they face it, they know where to move on. To the young people that are living here, many that maybe have not been able to go away to study or who dropped out, I would say, you know, it's time to try to get into the job market. Tourism was very good to me. I love the hotel industry. I think it's one of the industries where you can start as a bellman and end up all the way to be general manager. So I would love to see our young people be trained and be reintroduced into the tourism sector.
You know, last night I had someone that's going to run on the PPA list.
Okay.
And they're going to have a flat income tax of 10%, and they're going to have a real estate tax of about 2 or 2.5%. You know, St. Martin traditionally has been a place where people hate to hear anything about real estate tax. How do you feel about that?
Well, the first thing that I would look to as a tax OJ, I don't think I would, Mr. Gibbes, I would look as a real estate tax. My first instinct is to say that I would not want a real estate tax. It's one of the markets that we have on the island that keeps attracting people. We actually have very good resale and property values on the island, and I think that's one of the strengths we have compared to other Caribbean islands. If you reach to a position where you start to make it more unfriendly for people to own property and to actually own a home, you know, we might actually see some people looking to other avenues in other countries.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. And because today a guy stopped me and he said, I watched the show last night, he said, you know, when you told him that there were some other people with $1 million home, he said no. The guy says to me, there are many, many people in St. Martin with a house that is valued at $1 million guilders.
I agree. But remember also, Mr. Gibbes, that came from jollification days and Malaby days. You don't know, you may not realize that it maybe took 3-4 years to build a house, but the house is actually worth now $1 million guilders.
Oh, you're going to pay that 2.5%.
Exactly.
25,000 guilders.
And right now, if you look at it, that's one of the sufferings that St. Martin people are facing, because many of those people are now retired, and they have these big houses that they have to maintain. You know, not all the time they have the rental incomes anymore that are coming in. So it's a struggle for them. So imagine if you add another tax on them now. I think the last thing St. Martin people right now need is more taxes. What I think we need to do is find a way to simplify the tax structure, and we need to look for other means of generating income. You know, one of the things that I have noticed in my years involved in the construction field is our government seems very good at overspending on everything that they get involved with. So, you know, you sometimes hear, you know, a $3 million project, and I ask myself, where are those $3 million really going?
And you're in construction.
So, and I'm in construction. So, you know, I think if we really start to pay what we should be paying for projects and services, and government-owned companies as well as government, there should be a lot of extra money to do a lot of things.
A guy told me once, he said, you can't find a project under $1 million guilders.
Well, that seems to be usually the magical number. So, you know, if they have to bring in special trees to reach that figure, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. But when people hear the party name that you run on, how are you a Christian, or how would you describe yourself?
It's funny because since I declared, everybody tells me that. But you join the Christian party, and you're not a Christian. So I basically was baptized Catholic. I was raised Catholic. But what resonated with me most of all in that party is the principles, the Christian principles, which the party is founded on. And those principles like integrity, transparency, ethics, moral values, you know, those are the things that resonated with me.
Well, if you're Catholic, you're a Christian. That's the first Christian church.
That's correct. Right. That's correct.
I'll take a call for you. Oral Gibbes, maybe that was not a Catholic person called you there. Yeah, so no, I think what has happened, we are seeing now that a lot of people are very conscious of religion lately.
Of course.
In the last 5 years.
Of course.
And it never used to be like that in St. Martin.
Yeah. Well, you know, since the Christian Party came out also, it brought up a lot of discussions in the community. And one of the discussions is the separation of church and state. And I actually asked many people, you know, as I debate on Facebook and in person with people, have we ever really had separation of church and state in St. Martin? I mean, if we look at Parliament, we have moments of silence. Every year, the government has the National Day of Prayer. we have an MP that starts off all of her motivations with "To God be the glory." So those are not things you see in traditional countries which uphold separation of church and state.
Let me take a call for you. Oral Gibbes Live, you're on call. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I just want to congratulate the young Mr. Peterson for coming back to Martin and contributing to his country.
Sir, hello. Can you speak a little louder, please? Because you're on a cellular phone?
No, sir.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just would like to congratulate Mr. Peterson, young Peterson, for coming back to his country of birth and contributing to and wanting to contribute to his island. I think that's a very good gesture on his part and son of the soil. And somebody that we always support. So you have my support, Mr. Peterson. I went to school with your father, and he was very professional musician. And you resemble your father much. So I look forward to your fruits that you will bear as a politician. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. I really appreciate your call. And it encouraged me that I am on the right track.
Oral Gibbes Live and call. Hello.
Good night, Mr. Gibbes.
Good night, ma'am. How are you doing?
Well, I'm taking it easy, and I'm glad that one of your children reached the limit of being graduated for so many things. And tell her, don't give up. Keep it up and show this man will have those kind of remarks that he is trying to do anything, but the Lord put her there and she will remain there.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have to say, and I'm proud of her.
Thank you.
As well. She's a local to Matno.
Thank you.
I thank God for you and her.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you. Good night. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you again. Thank you. Yeah. So, with all the things that are happening, how you feel about unemployment, the young people?
Well, unemployment and the young people is obviously very high. I think we have a problem where we have a lot of young people coming on stream. Mm-hmm. Not everyone can go away to study. Many have to go immediately into the job market. Right. I don't think that the job market is in cooperation with the what's happening with the immigration, for instance. So we have competition, direct competition between those, the schools producing students, right, and actually immigration allowing more and more people to come in to work. So the job market is not very hospitable to the young people coming out of school. And I think that's important that we solve that.
Okay. Oral Gibbes Live, you're on call. Hello.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Gibbes.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, and good evening, Mr. Peterson. I know him, and he looked pretty positive. And I looking at him, I think he could make a good politician. I think he should keep it up. And by the way, I'd like to congratulate you on your daughter's graduation, and I think that's fantastic. And
thank you.
But listen, I think there's a guy in Colby. I think we should call you Dr. Professor, the Dutch and all that. I think we should call you and congratulate you, man. I don't know who he is, but I think that's fantastic, man. I just want to congratulate you and you and your daughter and Mr. Peterson to keep it up because he's performing and you show like a real politician. And yeah, very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. I really appreciate the support.
Thank you, sir. When you get that endorsement from him, then that's good.
It means a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I really appreciate it. To go back a little bit, what you were saying about the youth, we have, a phenomenon over the years that have become known as the blocks. And my experience in the construction field, I came up with an idea basically from that experience. And if you notice, a lot of the workers that is working in construction field in St. Martin, they did not come with those skills when they immigrated to St. Martin. And most of them actually learned their skills on the job in St. Martin. So I always question, why shouldn't we be able to duplicate that into our community with our own people? And this is something that is dear to my heart that I hope that I can develop over time, which is to be able to get those young men off the block and get them working into the construction field.
Oral Gibbes Live, young caller. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Gibbs.
Hello, good evening. How are you doing, ma'am?
Not too bad, not too bad. Congratulations to your daughter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also to you and your wife, and God bless and keep you all.
Thank you.
Okay then.
All right, take care. Okay, thank you. Okay, bye. And I think you said something there that's so important is that many of the people that came to this island to work, it's here where they learn the trade.
They learn everything here.
People don't realize
they
that.
learn everything here.
Yeah.
And that goes across the board in the hotel industry as well as the construction field and even in all the other businesses.
We're like this massive university for the region.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Oh, yes.
Let me take a call again. All Gibbes Live and call. Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I have a question for Mr. Peterson. Good night, first of all, Mr. Gibbes and Mr. Peterson.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
Question to Mr. Peterson would be,
Your phone is breaking up a little bit. Can you move around a little bit there because you're breaking up?
good evening, Mr. Gibbes. And
Good evening, sir. Go ahead.
my question to you is, what is your views on the counter policy that Mr. DeWeaver initiated and the 6-month contract? I just tuned into the show, so I didn't really get to hear it.
Okay.
So I just would like to know what is his views on the counter policy.
You mean the counterpart policy, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. And the other one is?
That's actually a good question. When I first heard about the counterpart policy, I thought it was a good idea. Now, a policy like that, you have to decide who's your target audience. And that's when the discussion came up in Parliament about who's a local. And the description of a local that would be able to qualify to be a counterpart is anyone that is legally residing on the island. So I think that is where I went away from actually supporting that policy, because it means that the target audience, which they made it seem that it was to target St. Martiners and those same young people to put them in counterpart positions. But if it's such a broad definition of who can be a counterpart, the businesses who clearly are not motivated to hire St. Martiners,
right,
they would not put St. Martiners as counterparts. You know, they would actually put their own as counterpart. So, and I didn't understand how government would be able to police that in the private sector.
Yeah.
You know, it would be something very difficult to implement.
Keep your thought on the 6-month contract. He asked that. I'll have to take a
Okay,
call.
no problem.
All Gibbes Live and caller. Hello.
Yes, good evening. This question to Mr. Peterson, he gave a very good suggestion, concerning the construction field on the Block Boys. His opinion also. What would be your opinion also? Those are two projects I would like to see government, the politicians take on, is the of the blocks, the construction boys, and the hotel school for St. Martin, because we have
Okay.
many hotels.
All right. Let me have him respond to you because we run out of time. All right, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Peterson. And then don't forget the 6-month
The
contract.
6 months contract. Well, those two projects, and I'm happy he brought up the hotel school, because living in Aruba, I experienced the Bushiru school that was a hotel school and still existing in Aruba, if I'm not mistaken, because I have many years I've been back to Aruba. But I think we need a hotel school. And I feel that we need a hotel school that's not, using the word school is not really what I have in mind, but it would be a fully functioning hotel. But the staff would be students. So basically, you come on business, you have an option to stay at that hotel.
Reduced rate.
Yeah, the reduced rate. I've stayed in hotels like that, like St. Martinique, very modern hotel, well done, but you're served by students.
You have them in Martinique?
Yeah, Martinique has a hotel like that. Oh. It's also the perfect place for sports tourism, because when you have now teams that come, which I believe greatly in sport tourism, working in a hotel in Aruba, I organized a lot of that as a sales manager, and you need some place to house the students, to basically, but they usually can't afford high rates. So having that hotel, it allows us to be able to put those teams in those hotels. So that is a direction I feel we need to go as a country. Like I said, it can be a fully functional hotel, a hotel that actually can generate also revenue. And then on the other side is having a training school where we can get those gentlemen off the block. Now, what's very critical in my analysis of all of that, Mr. Gibbes, is that many times those young men, when they get on the block, it's usually because they drop out of school and usually because they have maybe issues at home and different things. So trying to take them, and for instance, because many people will say, yes, but we have NEPA, we have other vocational schools. But the problem is those young men, after a while of being out of school, academics is really not their priority anymore. And they have become ingrained in their habits, and they will be quite reluctant to admit that maybe they can't read and write properly. So my plan was, why not have them in a training setting after you isolate, the reasons why they want to block and all that, where academics is not the priority. Because at the end of the day, in my field, when the guy comes on a job site, reading and writing is not the priority. The priority is, can you tie steel? Can you use a saw? Can you build a farm? Those things. So I think if we teach them those skills and get them back into the job world, we can get them off the block.
And there was a question also about the 6 months.
The 6 months contract. Yeah. Well, I think Mr. Gibbes, is important for people to understand the history of the 6 months contract and the reasons we have a 6 months contract. Traditionally, we have a seasonal tourism industry where during the high season you need a lot of workers, and during the low season, obviously, you don't need the same amount of workers. Where I think the problem is with the 6 months contract is the abuse of the 6 months contract, because businesses use it as a way to put employees through 3 6 months contract, and then they send you home, and then they start the process over, or they start with a new worker. In my years in business and when I had the Subway, while I had the accountant many times prepare such contracts, I never went through that with my employees, because after the 6 months, they would become permanent. Because at the end of the day, it is my responsibility in the low season to figure out how I'm going to adjust myself. And that came also with dialogue with the workers, and everybody cooperates, and everybody understands that in a high season you may have worked 48 hours, but in a slow season you might have to drop down to 35 hours. So I think the abuse is the problem with a 6 months contract. To believe that you can actually force on companies that they must hire somebody for, let's say, minimum a year. I think it's kind of unfair to the business world, but I think government needs to do a better job of policing the 6 months contract and punishing those that are abusing it.
Well, Mr. Peterson, we have 1 minute. It's all yours.
1 minute, all mine. Well, I would like to thank the people of St. Martin for listening. I hope that I was able to share a little bit about myself. Like Mr. Gibbes said, I will be contesting the September 26th election on the St. Martin Christian Party. I look forward to meeting people out there on the campaign trail. I also have my candidate page on Facebook that's under the name Claude Chacho Peterson. I would hope that people will give me the opportunity, will vote for me. I'm a man of integrity. I'm a straight shooter, and that's what they can expect from me.
All right, so Mr. Peterson, I want to thank you for coming in. I want to wish you much success, and hope that we have you back as a member of Parliament.
I hope so.
All right, so again,
thank you very much.
Thanks to you, and much success. All right.
Thank you.
And that's it for now here on our Oral Gibbes Live.